Hi, how are you today? Good, I'm doing well. I wanted to talk to you about a client that I have that's asking questions about low-income senior housing. And I was hoping that you all could help answer some of these questions.
Sure, we'd be more than happy to.
Well, she's 75 years old, and she's just recently widowed. Her husband died and went through most of their savings. So she's looking for an economical way to find rent. And she's heard about the senior complexes. She's interested in how the tax credit senior housing works. She has a dog and she loves to walk, so we've got some other questions to ask along the way too. So her first question is, what is tax credit senior housing?
Okay, so just to give you an overview, there are two types of low-income senior housing. The first type is subsidized or public housing, and that is when the rent is based on a percentage of the person's income, and it's usually about 30% until certain deductions take place, and then a government subsidy would pay the rest of the rental cost. The second type is affordable or tax credit housing, and that is when the rental rate is lower than the market rate in the area, and the developer receives a tax credit. So eligibility is based on income with the senior housing, and they do have age minimums.
So are all the complexes alike?
So they are not all alike. Each complex definitely has its own style and personality. Some of the complexes are patio or garden style apartments, and some are enclosed buildings, and they can range anywhere from 1 floor to 12 floors. Each complex does have different amenities that are offered.
Are there 1-bedroom, efficiencies, 2 bedrooms?
So depending on the developer and the complex layout, there can be anywhere from 1 bedroom to 2 bedroom, and some do have studio apartments available.
So what I hear you saying is they're all different, and each of the complexes has its own personality, the way it looks.
They definitely do, yes.
Can she decorate her own apartment?
So she can decorate in her apartment, but she cannot paint. That's pretty standard across the board. If she wanted to hang something up, they would require using some type of command strip or something else so you don't actually poke holes into the walls.
Well, she does have a dog. Are pets allowed?
So that, again, depends on the property. Some of the complexes do allow pets, and normally there is a 25-pound limit. And then you would also pay a pet security deposit, and that can run anywhere from between $150 to about $200 per pet. However, if she does need a service animal or an emotional support animal, then that would be allowed under doctor's orders.
How about her mail? Does that come directly to her apartment?
So in terms of mail, it really depends on the style of the building. So if she is in a patio style home, there is normally an outside covered area where she could access her mail. If she is in one of the larger complexes, then the mail area would be inside the complex itself and secured.
Does she have to pay for cable and Wi-Fi?
So cable television is not included with her monthly rent fee. She would be on her own paying that. It is the responsibility of the tenant, and some complexes do allow different carriers and others require you to go with one certain carrier. And in terms of Wi-Fi, again, that is the responsibility of the tenant as well, and she would have probably a choice of providers to pick from.
Are there common areas where they can do activities, like maybe they might enjoy walking like she does with her dog? How are they provided?
So there are common areas in all the complexes. Inside the complexes, these common areas can have different areas to congregate, play cards, play games, or read. And a lot of the complexes as well have an outside area to hang out in, and they may have chairs outside as well. Some of them actually even have a grilling area outside included. And in terms of walking, many of the complexes do have at least a sidewalk that does circle around the perimeter of the complex, and some actually have greenway trails that are around as well.
I know one of her big questions is, what is security like at the complexes?
And that's a very important question to ask. So for security, the complexes are locked 24/7, and the client would enter either using a special key fob or an access code. And depending on the complex, there could be resident managers or resident assistants that live on site as well. There can be also maintenance that might be available Monday through Friday, and some of the complexes even have video surveillance that's monitored by the maintenance. Also, inside each apartment complex, each apartment unit, they would have a deadbolt as well as a basic lock as well inside.
So what happens if she has an emergency?
So emergencies, unfortunately, they do happen. So all of the complexes and the inside units, they do have an emergency pull cord in the bathroom. And in the newer units, they do have them as well in the bedrooms. So what happens when she pulls these cords is these cords will alert either the management, security, or the resident assistants. And it might even alert whoever's outside your doorway in the hallway. In addition, she can also utilize a medical alert system and wear one of those. They can be used in all the complexes and they are encouraged. So if something happens and she presses a medical alert device, then that would alert the contracted provider, who would then be contacting 911. And lastly, if she needed to, she can always call 911 for help. So fire and emergency, they do have a special access code to get into the building. There are sprinklers and carbon monoxide detectors and smoke detectors equipped in all the units as well.
That's good information. I'm wondering, she has a car. Can she bring her car?
Oh, yes, most definitely. There are parking spaces provided for owners of cars. Some complexes do require parking permits, but most senior complexes are actually located on the city bus line, so that's another option.
And can she have overnight guests?
Yes, overnight guests are permitted for a set period of time, depending on the complex. If it becomes necessary to extend the guest visit, then that would need to be approved by management.
Okay. And I know each of these complexes are located in a different area, but what are some of the surrounding amenities?
Okay, well, some of the amenities might be a fairly large or small shopping center or grocery stores nearby, but that would greatly depend on the location of the senior housing. But the majority of the housing is located near to grocery stores and shopping centers. And once again, they are on a city bus line.
So speaking of the city bus, what are the transportation options?
Well, there are several transportation options. Let's say, for example, if you have to go to a doctor's appointment or the grocery store, resources for seniors at some complexes, not all, actually provide that as a service. There are private transportation opportunities, particularly if you're willing and if it's in your budget to pay for transportation. But we also, if there's a Meals on Wheels site there, sometimes resources for seniors can provide transportation to and from, but that would depend on how far away it is from the complex.
So what does Resources for Seniors do at the complex? Is there a person there?
Yes, depending on the complex, once again, there is a Resources for Seniors site coordinator, and that person provides generally is linking residents with community resources. They provide information and referrals, assist with benefits, entitlements, insurance, and many other services. So they basically are there for you during regular hours when they work. So they're not there 24/7. I think property management covers what needs to be covered in times of their absence.
So what does she need to do to find out more about low-income housing if she's interested in applying?
Again, Resources for Seniors directory and website, if you have access to a computer, is a great source for finding low-income senior housing in Wake County. The sources are listed under housing options in the directory and under the titles of affordable, subsidized, and mixed. And it gives you a clear definition of what that means.
Thank you. That's been very informative, and I have a lot of information I can share with my client.
You're welcome. If you have any more questions, please get in contact.
Thank you.